But I'm not even looking at you. I won't even be distracted.
Oh boy. Hey everybody, we are live on Facebook and YouTube. My name is Brent Carey and I'm joined by Sharita Star, and we are here to look at what is happening for the rest of 2020. And Sharita, I appreciate you taking some time to join us tonight from beautiful New York. And we were doing testing.
Absolutely.
And you might be able to tell we were having some audio issues, and we were trying to work through those before we started. So this may be a very brief overview, a very brief chat that we have to reschedule. But we were laughing before we started the stream tonight because we are, as far as you look at things in astrology, we're still in Mercury retrograde.
Well, and first of all, thank you so much for thinking of me to ask me to join you this evening and help keep people informed and keep people empowered, which is more important than it ever used to be in our lives. Well, it was always that way. The times we are in and where we're going, they're quintessential moving forward. To have, as we say, a good head on your shoulders, and resilience being part of that. Yes, so, well, it was funny when you were asking me the dates to possibly do this. You know, I did okay the fact that today and tonight was after Mercury turned direct, which was only 2 days ago. Now, when Mercury goes retrograde and he's moving forward, or moving backwards off his turnaround dates, he technically, what we call in astrology terms, he's stationed. So he sits on 1 degree point for a few days leading up to the retrograde starting to happen, and then he goes back, he's going backwards once he turns retrograde, which happened on June 18th, so that was the beginning of the retrograde. So the days leading into June 18th and the days falling out of June 18th, he was stuck at 14 degrees of Cancer. Right now, he's stuck at 5 degrees of Cancer, and he's not moving very quickly. He actually will get off this 5th degree of Cancer by Friday. So we've got a pretty fun week here.
We're close, but not quite there.
He's technically direct, but because he is this planet who's in charge of communications, thinking, mentality, any moving mechanism on the planet, when he's still stationed, whether retrograde or direct, it's like the most, for me, as I've witnessed this and observed this for years on end in my life at this point, the energy is so stagnant, you can cut it with a knife, and it is never a time to resolve things. It's time to reflect, but don't think you're going to solve a problem relatively quickly, because it just won't happen. And hence tonight, we know we have some sense of an audio issue, and we couldn't figure out how to get around it. We thought of the backup plan of Facebook, and then it dawned on me, oh yeah, you can't split screen on Facebook anymore, so we can't do it there either.
So we decided to go back to plan A.
Well, we went back to plan A, and if people say they can't hear anything, then, you know, we'll just redo this another day, because we can.
Yeah. Okay. If you guys can give us a thumbs up, if you can hear us all right, that would be great. I see we have 1 thumbs up so far, but if you can give us a thumbs up or a little message to let us know, that would be fantastic. We'll see them right here and get ready to dive in tonight. But Sharita, what was so fascinating to me was last year you were writing about 2020 and talking about how we had to prepare, and you had mentioned a few things, and this is something that you wrote back in December. You said it's an exciting time to be alive, to witness the continual healing of humanity, which will be absolutely intense during the months of 2020. This is an extremely important year to understand the radical energetic pulse of our global and collective outlooks. We will be looking at realigning foundations and structures that we have become accustomed to. Hands down, it will not be easy. And that was before any of this happened. And it's amazing to watch this play out and how it was reflected in the astrology that you were writing about last year.
Well, not only was it reflected in astrology, and most people, obviously, yes, they know I do the astrology, but I'm also a numerologist. So that advice and insight and obviously 2020 forecast equally ties in what the numerology had to say. My specialty is that I fuse both divination tools together. So when you sit down with me and you want to have an analysis or consultation session done, you really get this bird's eye view, because I'm not leaving one of the two of them out of the equation of how I formulate what's cooking in your life. And of course, whether it's a universal year, whether we're looking at America as a nation, America has a birth chart just like any human being. So we have a universal year energy that numerology always is able to tell us what's going on. And of course, I themed the year Awakening the Unexpected. And as much as I had no clue, and I also say later in that article, even the best psychic can't tell you how it's going to roll out, because they weren't meant to know. It was meant to be this unknown that was going to show up. And obviously, the unknown is first and foremost the COVID. And the obvious coronavirus pandemic that is not excluding anybody in this world from having to deal with it, navigate around it, hopefully stay safe. It's obvious that there are people who are not able to do that in this situation. And, you know, my heart is heavy watching this play out. I do truly wish the planets had lied to me a little bit, but they never seem to do that. So, you know, the grief going on is unsurmountable. The overwhelm going on is unsurmountable, but staying protected, staying safe, and staying empowered is how people will get through this. But it's going to take a lot of patience, and it is about not going back to normal. There is no normal to return to. And the sooner people really, truly wrap their head around that and their heart, as I've said many times, this is an earth heart shift happening in 2020. The earth is changing, and so are our hearts. And the earth and the heart are spelled with the same exact letters. That's a third divination tool I tie into fuller analysis, is called Lexagrams, and it's how this interesting way the English language has this way of spelling out the truth in life, which is really uncanny sometimes and utterly fascinating. Almost a little creepy, depending on which lexagram you're looking at. But the earth is healing right now. And this virus is here to help us heal, as much as we are in such resistance to that fact, especially here in America, unfortunately. As you know, our country's more divided than it ever was. And that's a sad reality that we all face every day as Americans. And that needs to be healed as well. And I hope America gets the memo, because we're meant to put down our differences and we're meant to come together. We're not meant to stand divided anymore. And that was going on before the pandemic. But in order to get through this, we can't keep putting it on two sides. We have to come together. It's the only way it's going to work.
In the astrology that you look at, do you see more of a coming together moving forward, or continued division as we head into 2021?
It's a challenging question to answer, because I can't determine what people's free will is going to do. There's a piece that's on my website called Reuniting America, Understanding a 6 Personal Year Cycle. We just popped into this a couple of weeks ago when we had our 4th of July celebration. This country has every potential in the world to come together, but it depends on the shifting of mindset, shifting of mentality, and also this surrender that the norm is not going to go back to what it was. So people need to understand that before they can come together. 2020 is also about a lot of personal work, meaning individual work. This whole understanding of being sheltered in place was a precious gift if you had it. And again, God bless and thankful and amazing gratitude to all the workers who have been on the front lines of this virus all across the world, not just here in America. But this time that if you had it, to just stay out of the way, stay quiet, try to be creative, take a look at yourself, take a look at your family, and take a look at what's really going on in a more simplistic way. Another piece I also wrote shortly after this really hit the United States was becoming friends with simplification. Because once the whole world shut down, it was like, well, that's what we've got to do. We've got to become friends with what simplification is. And a lot of people are still in resistance to that. And that's going to be their personal battle with how moving into 2021 is going to happen for them. So it's up to the individual. How are they going to deal with this? How are they going to accept simplification in their life?
Well, and it's been an intense summer, and you and I had a conversation. I think we spoke in April. And
April or
you said
May, I think, yeah.
Okay, yeah, maybe it was May. And you said to me, you said people think that this virus is going away, and it's not. It's going to come back. And you went through a couple of different things that you saw in the astrology of what the summer looked like, and you said, "Hang on, because it's coming back." And here we are in the middle of new, mandatory mask regulations coming out here in Michigan. I know you're in New York. And that's been in place for a long time.
Months. I'm down. I'm down with the whole mask thing. I disinfect my groceries. Everything. I don't go out a lot. I mean, I'm fortunate. I've been, been dealing with people. I'm built for a pandemic. I kind of like my solitude a lot. So that doesn't bother me. I've been busier in my work than I've ever been. Obviously, people are crawling out of the woodwork at this point, wanting to know what to do with their life and how to navigate this. So, I have, I'm blessed and I'm very fortunate in this entire situation. And I also happen to live outside of any densely populated area. And so I can stay out of the way. I can do my work. I've worked from home for, I don't know, the last 15 years. So, I mean, I don't have my lifestyle, aside from going out with a mask and disinfecting my groceries and not really seeing people as much as I used to, my lifestyle hasn't changed much. I would have to personally say, but that's just my personal experience. So I'm kind of built for this. I mean, I would say, which is, I know my role in this is to keep people empowered. And keep them grounded and keep them centered. I've got a lot of e-learning that I've been developing over the last few weeks, doing the research and just feeling out clients. I mean, I know from majority of my clients, especially those who have, families and they have children, they need things like meditation. They need tools to get them through this because they're on top of each other all the time. Everybody's going a little stir crazy and nobody's grounded. And everybody's losing their heads a little bit. So that's some of the things I'm going to be doing is family meditation classes, some classes for kids, and just general things for people to have at their affordability that are able to help them. And I also work with a medium, Adam Bernstein, who's fantastic. We did a great workshop for the recent Mercury retrograde, and his partner, Heather Estara, wonderful, wonderful healer. And so we've got a workshop coming up on the 11th of August. So we'll be doing that, and that's going to get people prepared for the Mars retrograde that's coming in September. It's going to transpire into mid-November. It's another interplanet retrograde cycle. And you had mentioned, how I'd written last year, how this year was such a reflective time and a healing time as well. And it's because there's only 4 months out of this entire calendar year that there are no inner planets going retrograde. And for many people who you may not know what retrograde means, so I'll briefly explain that. And retrograde is when the planets literally Well, it's measured in astrology to go backwards. The astronomer is going to argue with you and say it really doesn't go backwards. It's stationary, let's put it that way. The planet's not moving forward like it normally does. Any Mercury retrograde, a Venus retrograde, again, like we just experienced mid-May through the end of June. And then we've got Mars coming up September through November. And all inner planet retrogrades are very significant about what you're timing, what you're trying to put out in the universe, what it is that you'd like to plan. And I had told everybody moving into the close of last year, I'm not really sure what you're planning in 2020, but expect it to be delayed or off. You know, you're going to have to reschedule it. It's not going to go like you want it to. And here we are. So we really need to be prepared for the fall, because astrology and numerology do not lie to me about the first half of the year. So my guess is it's not going to lie to me about the second half. And if we thought the first half was not fun, you got to buckle down and you got to really mentally prepare for what's coming in the fall. Moving into winter.
Let's talk a little bit about that. So we're halfway through. We still have a long way to go for 2020.
Yes, we do.
And you know, there are a lot of big things coming up right now. One of the big debates is, you know, what are we going to do in the fall? And we had a question here for schools. You know, what are we going to do with schools? We have an election coming up, so there are a lot of things that are that are coming up that are very important that we're all wondering about. What does the next 6 months look like?
Well, I mean, I already know my state's not going back to school. So I mean, I live in New York. I do not live in the city. I live about 2.5 hours north of Manhattan. So I'm in between Albany and Manhattan. Well, closer to Albany, but I'm in between populated, dense areas. But I do believe my governor has said, no, we're not reopening. But there's also, you see, the thing about America and what we're going to be contending with is the fact that the country is not unified and it is not handling the virus in one way. So it's being all left up to the states individually to do what they want to do, which, okay, that's fine. But that's 50 different ways to do it. So some states, like Florida, for example, I know that they want to reopen the schools, but their numbers are through the roof right now. I don't know how they logically think they can do that. And in a state where they're, and again, this is just my personal opinion, but their numbers are going through the roof. But they reopened Disney World yesterday. I just think that was a little strange. So I don't know. There's a big debate about the children and the mentality of kids. And obviously some kids do really well being taught online and other kids don't. So it's split down the middle like everything else. I mean, teaching online has solved the mass shootings in our schools. It has solved the bullying in our schools. It has solved some problems if we could choose to look at it that way. But what comes down this pipe moving into September is Mars retrograde is like, if people understand what Mercury is, they know everything's a little off kilter and everything's weird for the 3 weeks that it happens. Well, when Mars retrograde, he does it for 2 months. And Mars retrograde takes the energy of a Mercury retrograde and it amplifies it by 10. So things are really persnickety and aggressive, and Mars is a very dynamic planet. He doesn't joke around. He's angry sometimes. It's always about rising up in your courage to not fall into the anger issues that the Mars tends to get into when it's not having a good day. Now Mars is already in the sign that he will backtrack through. And the official dates are September 9th through November 13th. Notice that spans over Election Day. So that's going to be interesting. And then it's also happening in the sign of Aries. So Mars is going to be at home in his own sign because Mars governs Aries to begin with. Now,
A little
Aries,
intense.
pardon?
A little intense in Aries.
And a little intense. And so you take Mars, who is already intense, no matter what sign he's hanging out in, and then you put him at home in Aries. And let me tell you, if people think people are angry right now and being selfish and people who aren't in awareness of how to navigate these retrogrades, get ready for this Mars retrograde, because it's going to be to quote the Queen in Alice in Wonderland, it'll be off with their heads. Like, everybody's off with their heads. They're already off with their heads as far as I see it, but this is going to get way more precarious.
Well, and there are several cycles that are showing up now in alignments that haven't happened since the French Revolution. I mean,
yes. Also, and I'm not even talking about all that. Yeah, and I could, but then we'd be here for another hour. But I've written a lot of pieces about all this stuff. So peruse SharitaStar.com, and you'll find a lot of reading information if you're bored in the pandemic. But yes, that's a whole concentration of energy that's been going on in Capricorn. And that was a huge indicator of why we've got 3 strong outer planets in Capricorn right now. And that is part of, actually, is there 4? No, it was 2, left to 2. Now it's back because Saturn's retrograding. And we have 5 outer planets, 4 outer planets retrograding. And then what also makes the second half of 2020 so much more interesting, and I'll just use that term very lightly, is that this is a 4 universal year. So 2020, it vibrates to a 4. So the 4 is guided by Uranus in numerology, which is why this year is so off kilter, because that's what Uranus is about. He's the disturber planet. He's the original planet. He's the planet of reinvention. He's the planet of surprises, shock factors, do it totally different. And hey, this is working just fine, but let's reinvent the wheel anyway, because Uranus is like, I just want to be different. I don't want to be like everybody else. He starts retrograding in August. He hasn't retrograded yet. So the last half of 2020 is all the outer planets retrograde for months on end. And Uranus will not turn direct. Let me look up. I forget the exact date. I don't know why it's escaping my brain cells right now, but that's, even my brain cells. August 15th, Uranus goes retrograde in Taurus, which is why the security systems of the world are also being disturbed, because Taurus is a sign of security, finances, what's established, banking systems, so on and so forth. So it's why we're also going to watch a very strong revolution going on with how we deal with money overall. The stock market will be involved in this very strongly. And January 14th, 2021 is when Uranus will turn around again. So we've got mid-August through mid-January of the Uranus retrograde. So Uranus being in charge of 2020, you think the energy hasn't gone very amicably in the last few months? Wait till that planet in charge of the year is retrograde. It's going to—
I was hoping you'd have some good news for us.
Disturbance and chaos. We haven't seen the natural disasters that this year promised. We will see some earthquakes. We will see— I don't think the United States is going to have a very forgiving hurricane season this year, more than likely. So that's not over yet. We haven't thrown just what naturally happens into this whole movement. And I do think there's some other more unexpected events that are still unknown that are definitely on the way. Everybody's playing the blame game of how this virus started. I think that information may come out in some form of somebody's going to want to not maybe get revenge, but they're going to want to fix why. So we do have a potential. It could be a world war starting. But even looking at our own country, we're not too far away from having that happen on a civil war level again, with the way things are going. So instead of coming together and being united, it could be the total opposite end of the energetic spectrum, and we could just be as divided as we could possibly get. And, you know, our country is no strangers to doing this. We've done it before. We just haven't done it in many years. Although I think we've been doing it a lot more silently, more than violently. It's been, you know, people have still stayed divided in this country for a very, very long time. You know, so there's all that. A huge turning point this fall is, again, going back to the Uranus conversation, is on Halloween, which is 3 days before Election Day in the United States. And we haven't even talked about the next Mercury retrograde, because that all overlaps the next Mars retrograde coming up. So actually, let's talk about him first. So Mercury steps in October 13th and goes retrograde for the last time in 2020 until, yes, Election Day. Mercury will turn direct on Election Day in the United States. So you know what kind of utter confusion is going to be going on. I wouldn't be surprised if there is no election this year. I'm not going to forecast that as an absolute, but it's possible that it could just be delayed, that they'll be like, listen, there's no way we can do this until the spring. There's just no safe way we can hold a accountable election. I can't even imagine what this mail-in ballot thing could be like. And the myriad of mistakes and confusion and all the things that mid-October through early November timeframe, those weeks, they're not going to be light and fluffy. And what'll happen on Halloween is we have a full moon, and I don't think there'll be a lot of trick-or-treating this year.
No.
Unfortunately, and that's sad for the kids, I know. Or they'll, you know, parents will have to like, and that's something like I said, in listening to my clients and listening to like all these new problems, new situations that people are contending with. You know, we really got to get creative with how to keep people encouraged and how to keep people empowered in all of this, especially the kids. So that's also super important, because I know that's a huge, you know, it's a mental thing not to be able to, like I said, some kids like it, some kids don't. It just depends on the kind of kid you are. Just like some adults like being at home alone and some adults don't. So it really depends on who you are. Not everybody's going to deal with everything the same way in life, that's for sure. And that's what your forecast is going to be able to tell you. But what will happen on Halloween is we have a full moon in Taurus. Back to that sign again that rules money, stable, our stability, our sense of security, and you know, just how we feel like we're established and we're in our little zone. That full moon will conjunct the Uranus retrograde on the nose. So when you take a full moon and team it up with Uranus retrograde in the sign of security, stabilization, you can bet things are going to be shook up like a snow globe and then some. But it won't look as pretty as the snow globe does once all the snow falls back down.
And it's just amazing how all this shows up in astrology, though, and then you start seeing it play out. And, you know, you don't exactly know how it will manifest and what it will look like, but it's the energy that you see.
The energy is like, you know, I watched this, just like you said, Brent, we were talking about the Mercury retrograde that is still kind of, well, it's not retrograde anymore, but it's sitting there right now.
Yeah.
I knew that I knew the numbers in this country were going to just go out of control by this time, because it said so in the nation's chart that you shouldn't be reopening. And not so much that, okay, maybe you can reopen in a delicate way, but the thing of it is, these people didn't listen to honoring social distancing. They didn't want to wear a mask, and now people have spread the virus all over the place. maybe I'm so grateful New York is calm right now, but I don't think that's going to stay the same, because we're not excluding anybody from not coming into the state anymore. And so, that's just a matter of time. The United States is a big country, and what's the other interesting thing that people are always trying to throw into the conversation? Well, look at this country over in Europe, and look at that country over there, and they did just fine. But they're like the size of there's the size of one of our states, and all of those people shut their borders down. All of those people made smarter choices, but the United States is not shutting down from state to state. It's just allowing everything to happen the way it is. People are still flying. People are still driving all over the place. So the fact that you don't know you have the thing for maybe almost 2 weeks, it's like, well, who knows what you could have done in 2 weeks?
Yeah. Well, and I want to
part of this.
I want to encourage people to, if you have questions or comments, go ahead and leave those, and we'll bring those into the conversation here. I appreciate Brooke, Doris, Diane, and a few others who have commented and had questions already. And you're talking about the United States, and countries have charts and astrology in play too, and that's also in the mix here.
Yeah, and we had just, the year we were in from 19 moving through this summer, when we just passed into the 6th personal year as a country. We were in a year last year, I called it Irreversible America. So by the time this hit in the spring, this was, I forecasted that last summer. This country, I knew there was something so permanently changing about what was going on in this country. And we're in it. We're in the movement of everything needing to change. It needed to change in some way, shape, or form. And what's fascinating about America is that we had a natal Mercury retrograde in our chart, which is such an interesting fact. Because our founding fathers actually dabbled in astrology quite a bit, and I still, for the life of me, want to know why they picked establishing a country under Mercury retrograde, but it explains a hell of a lot.
Yeah, that is true.
And I don't mean to, at this point, we do need to laugh on some level. I don't want to make light or make fun of anything that's going on right now, because it's very serious what we're all experiencing. It's not easy what we're all experiencing.
I think one of the things that's the only thing that's helping a lot of people get through this year are memes. This has been the year of
all the funny posts. What if 2020?
Like there's one right there. That was one of my favorites.
That one is hilarious. That one is
but that's you have to laugh a little bit sometimes, because it's been
laughter
tough.
is that's a great lexagram. One of my favorite lexagrams is the word laughter. And lexagrams are basically taking anagrams from any word, name, or title, and you phrase the anagram. So the art of the lexagram is phrasing any of the anagrams you derive, and it spells out the truth in a form of like poetry or prose. So the word laughter spell, heal the great heart, heal the great earth. So the more we laugh, we can find ways to laugh right now. We are healing. We're helping the earth and we're helping ourselves. Another great one that I love is the word evolve. The only way we can evolve, it's encoded right in the word. You have to love. And that probably is the most important thing for anybody to do moving forward. If you're not doing it out of the intention of love, in a truthful way of love, not because you need the love or that you're doing something ill intent with the love, but love is how we evolve. But being hateful, being judgmental, pointing the fingers, looking for something to blame, accusing people, which is what is going on right now. Is I think our country, out of any of the countries out there, and granted, I don't read all the news 24/7. I have to like step away from that from time to time, but we've put so much politics into this virus that we're missing the memo about everything else that we need to do as a country right now, because we're so divided. So that if people can put aside their differences and just say, let's do the right thing, even though I may not agree with it, but at least if it's allowing people to remain safe, that's what matters. With loving intent at this point. Anger is not going to solve anything, but I know people are angry about many things right now, and rightfully so. But it's only through peaceful means will things get resolved, not through the violence. But I think we're still going to see our fair share of it nevertheless.
When do you see this shifting and turning, and some lighter energies coming into play?
It might not be till next spring.
Okay. Well,
I mean,
we've been looking at a timeline like that for the virus.
The thing that people do need to kind of, and of course we were talking about the memes or whatever they're called. People go, people want to know my 5-year plan, and I don't even know what I'm doing till this Friday, because people are just feeling like this is like a Groundhog Day kind of thing, And the thing is, the recovery and the true recuperation period from this, and I do write this very clearly in the Realigning and Reuniting America, Understanding a Sixth Personal Cycle piece I wrote, is that we've got another 4 years to really fix it. And it's not to say, nobody's going to be able to live their life, and you're not going to be able to, do things, but you're not going to do things the way that you were doing them. So everything is there's a huge adaptation going on right now. Now, some people are very strongly resisting adapting to anything. They don't want to adapt. They just want what they used to have, and they want that to be exactly what it used to be, but that's unattainable. Many energy people you also talk to use this term of the 3D world is diving and we're moving into 5D. And 3D world is just this material greed, attachment to power, attachment to things that don't serve us. And 5D is an ascension into really getting up into like our crown chakras and getting into our third eyes more and getting into a more spiritual way of looking at our lives, which needs to be in simplicity. Because what did we do as a human race, and not just America, we did this globally. We got so complicated. I mean, we could beep bop anywhere we wanted to, and it was great, and we could have all this technology, and it's wonderful. But look what we did to our planet in the process.
Right.
Speeding up all the ways that we want to keep doing all of these things to have a matter of convenience in our life. In an insta world that needed to be, satisfied. We needed to be satisfied in an instant. We've got to watch everything instead of, picking up a book anymore or whatever it is, how you like to read things. I still love books. I cannot do anything more on a computer than I already have to do for my work. We need to slow down. This year wanted us in this awakening the unexpected. It wanted us to slow it down, which again was the gift of being sheltered in place. But we will be back in this type of, I think it's going to be more of a personal choice. I think they are going to just let things ride here in America, and they're going to be like, hey, do what you got to do. Nobody's going to tell you to stay home. That'll be up to you if you want to stay out of the way, and you want to just stay out of what the next part of the equation is going to be in 2020. Because like I said, there's more things coming in this unexpected 2020 mix than just the virus that we have already been contending with. There's way more interesting things coming.
And again, those energies are, you were talking about this last year. This is a year of the unexpected. There will be things that surprise us, and we've seen a lot of that. And I guess expect the unexpected.
And awaken to it. But what's interesting is, because I could have just used expect the unexpected, and then when I got a little more into my numerical depths, I said, no. This is about awakening. So this year is it's waking us up is what it wants to do if we allow it to do that. But that's up to the individual, you know. And not everybody's ready for it. I've kind of said it like this too. You know, what's happening with this true understanding of we're never going back again to that norm, whatever that norm we thought we lived by, we're not going back to that.
Well, and it wasn't very healthy in the first place.
Thank you. And I agree with you 110% on that. I think, you know, people were, and I know the American model really did this more maybe than, you know, the Europeans have a little bit different. Their beat in lifestyle and life is a lot different pulse than what America does. Which they have a little more fun, I think, you know, in a more mature fashion, I would have to say. I mean, not just Europe, but, you know, other countries too, but Europe has a good grasp on it. And, but the average American works 2 or 3 jobs, couldn't last more than 2 months on the savings that they have. What kind of life is that? What kind of life is that to have? And say you have stability. That model needs to change. And that's what we're going to be able to, it's going to take time. It's not going to be like, ooh, we're going to fix that just like that. It's going to take time. But we've got to spread things out differently than how it's been. Again, it's like
here's a question for you.
It's simplification process if we allow ourselves to awaken to that, you know.
Yeah, a good question here. You know, when you're talking about aligning with people who are in sync with you, any suggestions for finding more magical people? That's a great question, JG. I
like it. You want your magical people, and that's and thank you, JG. I see a name there, JG.
Yeah.
And I know, and of course, we just had that Venus retrograde that happened back mid-May through the end of June. And now Venus, when she retrogrades, she's about relationship. She also deals with money, finances, but it's any legalities and any kind of agreements that we have, one-on-one especially, but most importantly, relationships. And this is another thing I've been hearing from countless clients and friends as well. Wow, you know, I really noticed my relationships are changing in this whole situation, because some people are either just, you know, standing on the political side of the fence that they want to stand on, and then you can't have a conversation anymore. And people, they don't want to honor things, and they just want to judge. So some people are realizing, hey, I've got to step away from that kind of energy. The most magical person you're going to be with is yourself. So if you're really true to yourself and working on yourself and doing work for you, honoring yourself, standing in your truth, you're the most magical person you can find first. And when you do that job, then you're going to naturally just attract other magical people around you, you know?
And this is a question that I know you're really passionate about. This is why you do what you do. So it might be good to talk about this a little bit. How can people use astrology to our advantage? And that's why we're doing this chat right now. So how can we use all of this information moving forward?
That's going to be another portion of my upcoming next few weeks.
That's another 2-hour talk.
I'm going to be offering very affordable e-learning courses to be able to teach you the practicalities of astrology and numerology. Because the bottom line is, astrology is confusing for people. They don't understand it. It comes with, like, it's like a doctor. It comes with this language that nobody gets. Like, you can only talk to another astrologer in the language of astrology and have anybody understand what you're saying. So we have to, we were talking about all these planets and retrograded stations and all these things, and, you know, however all these things go, you know, you have to bring it into layman terms in order to you know, allow people to get it. One of the courses I'm going to create is aligning in your soul's purpose. So it's going to allow you to understand who you actually are from the main components of your astrology and numerology makeup, so that you work with who you are and stop trying to put yourself in a mold that you don't belong in anyway. I mean, I know a lot of people have lost a job in this whole situation, and you know, they may be taken care of for a while, but they're going to have to go back to work eventually. And why not do something you want to do? You know, this is a time when we are allowed to thrive, but we can't do it in the mentality we used to have in the former life or the pre-COVID. You can't run this 5D being a little bit more, using more this intuitive side of the human nature. You can't run it in the 3D world. You're not going to be able to do that. Will you still make money? Absolutely. Will you still be okay? Absolutely. Is it going to look like the routine you once had? No. Everybody's lifestyle is going through a huge thing. As the country started off this year, one of the first indicators of where we were making this realignment and shift is the country's habits, routines, and our lifestyle. It was bound to change. It wasn't going to stay the same. It was just not meant to stay the way it is. One of the first things I would also tell people, always follow the moon. Know when it's a new moon and know when it's a full moon every month. That's why I write my lunarscopes, which of course are always linked through the Empowerscopes that come out every week on Empower Radio. Lunarscope it's like my twist on a horoscope, but just for a full moon and a new moon that happen once a month. And it's a logical place in our life, because the bottom line is, everything we need to do, if we're going to manifest in life, you have to do it with feeling, and you've got to believe it, even before it shows up in your life. And the moon is what guides our feelings. So knowing where a new moon is hitting in our chart every month is where we're going to see something new happen. Where the full moon happens once a month is where we're offered reflection. And if we keep in that little bit of a balance, and that's just touching a little bit of a surface, but understanding lunar cycles is one of the most key ways to live your life in balance and know when to do things and when not to do things. And of course, knowing all this retrograde information is another plus. But you know, following our lunar lady is one of the wisest ways I have found in my life. How to know, I mean, and it's almost like at this point, it's like foolproof. Yeah, that's happening. Oh, that's on a full moon. Oh, that's going out of the way, you know. So it just depends. And everybody's chart is different. No two charts ever read the same way, even twins, although they're pretty close, but they're not exactly the same. But, you know, the thing is, this is also a year to be proud of who you are as an individual. Stop following. Think for yourself. Question what you're being told. Don't believe everything you see on social media, especially. Watch what you share. Do some good research before you share anything of whatever it is. Make sure it's a trusted, valid source of the news. I have watched more malarkey floating around on that social media. And I was like, ay. You know, you can't be sharing every article that pops up on the notification on your phone. Like, stop. Put it down.
Right.
Go meditate. Go take a walk. Do something. And I know some people can't get out. They don't live in an area where they're able to do that as easily as other people are, but do your best do your best to detach a little bit from being overwhelmed by the news, by the media, because what's coming in the second half of this year, if you didn't like the news in the first half, you're not going to like the news in the second half, all the more. So, and like, we have to be aware, we have to keep a toe in, but we have to get rid of the fear. I use an acronym.
Yeah, we've gone through, you know, a tough first half, and we're halfway through, and it is encouraging to hear that things do improve next spring.
Well, I
we
think
just have
that's
to get
about
through it.
how long we've got to contend with the virus being very active and around. I don't think it's going away until then.
Yeah.
That really doesn't tell you much about those next 2 weeks, right? I just loved in March how they kept saying, "Oh, we're going to keep opening in 2 weeks," and then that became another 2 weeks, and then it's 2 weeks, and I was just like, "Would you just tell them the truth?" No, we are not open.
Well, for people that really, you mentioned your lunar scopes, and those are so helpful, and you put out so much great information. And another way to stay up on what's going on is with your power scopes, and these are, about 4 minutes every week, a podcast. You can listen to them wherever you enjoy podcasts, and you do a great job of doing a quick overview and then diving into what each sign can expect for the week, and those are very helpful. I always look forward to them.
It's just it's like a little tidbit.
Yeah, no,
it's so general for me, and I remember when you proposed that we come up with these, and it was I admit to you, it was such a challenge for me because I'm not sure on words is half my problem. So I was like, wow, how am I going to sum this up in 4 minutes every week, but I got into a roll with it. And, I just try to give you enough to just, it's not going to solve your life problems, obviously, but it's going to give you a little focus and a little bit of a direction to point your head in the right place instead of, fighting, hopefully not fighting. At this point, we don't want to fight anymore, and we're going to notice a lot of fighting going on, especially when that Mars retrograde starts kicking in and in September. And you're going to want to stay out of that. Being courageous this fall, being brave, what's the word? Kill them with kindness at every turn of your life as much as possible. I've noticed it. And I don't know about you, what's going on out in Michigan, but people are just like weird in the stores when you have to go out. Like some people are like kind of friendly to a fair degree, but then you get other people, they look at you like you have the fear of God. And then, they're like, they just, it's a weird world to be living in.
It's a weird time. It's
a
really weird time.
It's like you're not sure. But try to smile under your mask. I had another great colleague of mine, Nora Young, write a nice little Facebook thing. She says, smile with your eyes, because you can.
That's great. I like that.
So if we just use a little better eye contact, and even if you are smiling under that mask, it'll come through your face. It will come through.
It does.
It's just like if you're on the radio, if you're smiling, your voice sounds different. Yeah.
Well, and Susan has it right here. Keep spreading love. That's exactly. Really, one of the best things that we can do.
Love, and that's the big evolve. The only way we're going to evolve through this is if we love. I can't spell hate out of evolve. So, but I have a little acronym for fear. It's false evidence appearing real. Mm-hmm. But the better way to take fear is face everything and rise. And that's what we need to do moving into the fall, is just face everything and rise in a way that we are going to take care of ourselves. Our self-care is so important. If we feel tired, allow yourself to be tired. I get that too. People are overwhelmed with their energy and they don't know what to do. I'm going to honor it. Don't resist it. Don't keep pushing your envelope. Honor it. And I know some people don't have maybe the job liberty, depending on what you do for a living. But if you have the ability to kind of take your time a little bit and just work in a more relaxed fashion, keep doing that. There's nothing to be forced this year. There is nothing to be forced this year. If you are trying to force something to happen that I want to keep this right on schedule, I'm going to keep this the way it's supposed to be, you're really you're banging your head against the wall, you know. Healing is not about banging your head up against the wall. Healing is.
I felt that personally. Like you try to get something scheduled or done, and it's just not happening right now, and you have to back off. Mm-hmm. Just go with the flow. I mean, if there was ever a time to do that, this is the time.
Yeah. And, you know, like I said, the second half of this year is not going to appear any easier. And in fact, it may appear much harder. The need, in my opinion, to be sheltered in place is going to become more apparent for multitudes of reasons beyond the virus. That's just the energetic take. I'm not going to throw out what I believe could happen or couldn't happen, but because there's only so much in a forecast that you really want to put into anybody's head, because, you know, we knew awakening the unexpected was going to happen this year. We knew life was going to become more simplified. But everybody still has this individual responsibility and accountability to themselves to still be able to thrive. As simple as life can become at this point, because life is going to become simplified in many ways across the board. More simplified than we're already knowing is going on. So people just need to become more comfortable with that. And it may take more time for other people than it, you know, not everybody's hopping on board with this. And that was another point I think I kind of got off. But like, I look at trying to sell you 2020. It's like a salesman, you know. It's kind of like when we used to have horses and carriages, and then they wanted everybody to buy a car. Well, maybe not everybody owns a car right now, but the majority of people use them. Or when there was the ice box, and then they wanted you to buy a refrigerator. Or when we had a radio and now everybody's got TVs. Well, now the TV is evolving into a whole nother thing too. But the bottom line is everybody wound up with a television. And now barely anybody owns a landline anymore. And mine's being charged over there, but everybody's got a cell phone now, right? Everybody's got one. Who doesn't have a cell phone? Most people have one. I mean, you know, unless you really, really have stayed out of it. So what's this awakening experience is the same exact thing. It's like some people are very like the top 25% of the population are kind of going, okay, I get it. All right, I understand. The other 75 right now are like, no, where's my old norm? I want that back. And they're just resisting. But when more things keep falling out in this year, it's like, it's going to take those experiences to fall out for them to go, oh, okay. So yeah, simplify. Oh, okay. Oh, now I get it. So there'll be more people getting on board with this. So, you know, back to JG's thing of the magical people will keep coming. But in the meantime, make sure the most magical person you're with is yourself.
Yeah. You mentioned the moon, you know, following the moon if you're just getting into astrology. Is there another planet that you feel is another important one to watch? They're all important, but a second behind the moon? They're
all important. You see, the thing of it is your astrology chart is, you know, it's a 360 degree wheel. It's divvied up into 12. We call it houses in astrology, and that term is highly confusing for anybody. Like, wait a minute, 12 houses? You know, they don't get it. I call it the rooms of your life. I call the whole chart your house. I say the whole chart's your house, and this is how you keep each of your rooms. It's kind of easier for people to comprehend that visually. So depending on when you were born, that's why we always want to know your time. That sets up how the whole zodiac from Aries to Pisces falls in your chart. And then where all the planets were positioned on the day you were born determines what room of your life they sit in. Sometimes you have a party going on in one room of all these planets, depends on your chart. Some people have grand trines, they've got things all spread out. It depends. Everybody's chart's different. Depends on when you're born. But when you want to look at yourself in astrology, the most important thing, how I was taught, was look at your ascendant, and that's the time you're born. And that's also, by the way, if you're a follower of astrology and you know your chart super well already, when you read a horoscope, you should read for your ascendant. Now, you got to know your math and your chart there to do it accurately. Because if you're born late in the ascendant, you should read for the next sign for the horoscope to kind of make more sense. But if you're born relatively earlier in the first portion of any given rising sign, also known as your ascendant, that is also going to give you a very accurate scope on what on a more personal level than beyond just that sun sign. Of course, most people know their sun sign. That's where the sun was positioned the day you were born. So right now we are finishing up the last week of Cancer. So the sun right now is in Cancer. It's getting, I think it switches the 21st this year, or it's the 22nd, because we have a new moon in Cancer on the 20, God, I'm like, I haven't written my month of Cancer yet. Because it's been Mercury retrograde. And
I don't know how you keep all of this straight, honestly. You've got so many retrogrades of planets.
Computers, this is what happened. My computer, my old computer finally kicked the bucket. It might be fixable, but we'll see. My lawnmower passed away.
Oh, no.
I had all sorts of fun mechanical, technical issues. It is, yeah.
I'm just trying to keep my laptop alive right now.
So the sun coming up on the 22nd, a week from tomorrow, will move into Leo. And that's when we get into the heat and the real raw deal of summer. Because Leo, of course, is a fire sign, and Cancer is a leadership sign, and any leadership sign we have will lead you off into a new season. Of course, we celebrated solstice on the 20th, and then we had that whammo that was a solar eclipse on the 21st of June. That's another whole thing that's sort of past, but that was a huge reset button for the entire planet.
Mm-hmm.
How we had that eclipse, that solar eclipse. It was at 0 degrees of Cancer, and it made a very interesting conversation to Saturn, which, how I kind of said it, there's a divine feminine energy rising in I mean, it's already here. But it's like, it is time for humanity to rise up in their accountability and just be responsible. And that eclipse was very telling of that energy needing to happen. And of course, we've been watching for these last couple of years, the Me Too movement, women really telling the truth about these horrible things that have happened to them for so many years. Nobody ever talked about. And of course, I know if you're watching the news at all, you know that there's a woman been taken into captivity who may be able to tell a lot more about these stories. And I didn't get to watch the news today. I had other things to do. But I'm curious to see how all that will tend to go. But nevertheless, there's a divine feminine energy that wants to kind of move up in the planet. And it is trying to politely, although I think it'll be done not without a fight, it's dismantling the male energy out of alignment and what's been abused and what's been not done in integrity, for that matter. This world has been operated by people for how many years at this point who are not up to snuff at all. There's more secrets and things none of us know about, of course.
Sure.
So we're told what they want us to know, or what they would like us to believe. And I think more and more, and that's part of this awakening thing and this utter shock factor that this year will not lighten up on delivering to us. So, we want to, again, always think for ourselves. But I do think, again, feminine energy is and it's not about like the male and a female, and I don't mean just male and female, but it's about a man being in touch with his feminine side. It's also about a woman being in touch with the feminine side, or vice versa. And that balance coming back into play, which I think is very off kilter on the planet as well. And it has been for quite some time. So that is also part of this adjustment going on, you know.
A lot to handle all at once. And you mentioned the eclipse. We had three of them this summer, and that does not happen very often. So
we just did. And then we've got, see, we get out of Mars and Mercury retrograde in November. And then at the end of November, we have the year's last lunar eclipse right after Thanksgiving. And then we have another solar eclipse in December, both of which will continue to shake things up quite a bit. Just
the fun never stops this year.
I
Exactly.
the thing of it is, I know we can be empowered, we can remain empowered, and that's up to any individual to be able to do that for themselves. Support groups are really wonderful right now, wherever you can. If you need support in your life, you need to seek out people to help you. Not your friend who's going to judge you, and not your friend who's going to tell you you're crazy. You need to seek out, viable, resourceful information to help if that's, any situation that people find themselves in. We want to be very careful who we're taking any kind of advice from, because if they honestly don't have the results that we want, we shouldn't listen to what they have to say. So be very careful about how you take in whatever you think the truth is right now, because again, it's like that snow globe. It's like, and who knows? I mean, I just love it on social media. Everybody thinks they're an expert on this virus. Honestly.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know anything about it. All I know is I don't want to get it.
Right. And there's a lot of propaganda floating out there on both sides. So you just gotta, like you said, trust your own gut, do your own research, filter your sources.
It is more important than it ever was. I mean, we all knew that. It's not like people haven't misused social media prior to COVID-19, but now I think it's almost like as bad as the pandemic. It's like, well, no, like, let's not.
Well, I know you advocate social media breaks, and you do a good job at taking them. And I
try my best.
I need to follow you. You've done that and spend more time away. I try to do that. You inspired me actually to take breaks. So
yes, at least once a week, take a couple days away from it. I was not successful this Mercury retrograde. I can hop off of it for a couple weeks at a time, but it's challenging when I know with the work that I do and what I share that if I'm, and not that I need to be there, but I know it's helpful. So and I'm not sharing much of anything that it's all about astrology. And of course I do try to, share some funny things because we do have to keep laughing, but
exactly. Well, I know you do a great job of keeping us updated on everything that's going on in these changing times. Where can people connect with you?
The best way to find me is sharitastar.com is my regular website. I'm Sharita Star on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Those are the only three I do at this point. I'm kind of on some other ones, but I never go on them anymore because you need your own employee to do the social media at this point. So I just, I'm very light with it as much as I can. I mean, I just can't have my head in 20 hats when I can't manage 20 hats, when I have other things to do that actually make money. So that would be the best. And of course, on any page of my website, you can find a way to sign up on my email list. And that is the best way to keep in touch with everything that I share. I typically get to, release the same information on social media, but the problem with social media is you don't always see everybody's posts all the time. So you can't, unless you directly make a point to go to somebody's page, So if you're on a mailing list and and I have a spam-free one, if you get on the mailing list, then, you're just always informed, up to date as soon as you need to be, because, you can't rely on Facebook for seeing everything, for something like that. If, you just want to say, oh, I just see her on Facebook, I don't need the mailing list. You may not always see me on Facebook, it depends.
Right. Well, and do you have any classes? I know you've done some interesting workshops and classes. Do you have anything new coming up?
We have with Medium Anna Bernstein and healer Heather Stara. We're doing we haven't coined the title yet because, of course, the Mercury just went direct, but it's going to be something about mastering Mars retrograde in the fall. But I think she's going to twist the title. But basically, we're going to do a workshop. So I'm going to really dive into a lot more details about what the cycle is about. There's always a bonus about how it applies to you and your sun sign. And Adam walks through a wonderful meditation. He helps ground the energy and kind of clear things out that all of us are dealing with. And then Heather does a wonderful healing. They're absolutely fabulous. So we do, like the three of us do, it's like about an hour and a half or so. So we're going to be doing that August 11th. And it will be, they're navigating all that. It'll be on adambetweentheworlds.com, but I'll have that on my site very shortly, which I know she's got all the pages embedded. And I also the Feng Shui master, Amanda Gates. And we did this for the Venus retrograde as well. We did a, love and joy workshop because we knew a lot of the grief that was going to be coming, in May and in June with this thing not going, we're going back to normal. No, we're not. So we did a whole workshop on that. And these are all they're all like $30 workshops. They're very affordable. That's the thing that I, understand is that a lot of people, obviously everybody's going to be watching their money in a different way than they used to before. So keeping things affordable for people is key to be able to get them the information that they need, because people, like I said, they need to be empowered. But her and I haven't set a date for ours, but that will also be in August. And I also do simply spirit and star sessions with another medium colleague of mine, Glenn Klausner. And we have been having a blast with this. We hopped on board with each other back in late March. And what we do is it's private sessions. We don't do a class, but it's also all on the website. You'll see it under services. But he is a medium, amazing medium. The sessions we've done, I can't, it always blows my mind every time. Because what I discovered years ago with working with other kinds of mediums, and Adam and I had also been doing live galleries for years. For the last 5 years, we did live galleries because he doesn't live that far away from me. He's like about an hour away across the river from where I am. And so we had done some live events over the years. And reading with a medium is always interesting for the astrologer and the numerologist that I am, because spirit comes in and delivers these messages to the person, and they'll talk about, oh, next April you'll be this and whatever, or look for this fall, or whatever the case is. And then I'm sitting there doing my little math because I have their birthday, and I went, oh, spirit is right on the money. You're in a month of new beginnings then, or whatever the case may be. And so Glenn and I came together, and so we're offering these simply spirit and star sessions. So he lets spirit take the first half of the reading, and I'm sitting there kind of taking notes. I've already got your forecast prepped, and then we, tie it all in together. And so we have a blast doing those. People are, if you're into the medium thing and you like hearing from your loved ones who have crossed over, it's a source of comfort as well at this point, but also, to keep your focus on your own forecast and stop worrying so much about the global one. Not that we don't need to be aware, but again, self-care and self-knowledge is more important than it ever was before.
Well, and I can jump in here too. And Sharita does amazing personal readings. So reach out to her. Sign up, go to her website, and you got a nice little testimonial here from Doris too. She gets your emails. So Yeah, appreciate everybody. And some other people have commented that they're going to go start following you as well. So.
See, and well, I see, but then I'm trying not to pull a John Stewart. I don't know if you saw him. I don't know what interview he did, but somebody had told him, John, stop looking at the screen and stop looking at yourself on the camera, because he's never really done any of this stuff before. So I was cracking up laughing. So I'm like, yeah, keep your eyes on the green dot, Sharita. Just look at the green dot.
You do a much better job than I have. I've got to used to looking more.
Then I noticed somebody says something. So
I'm watching the comments and bringing them in here. But yeah, Sharita does amazing personal readings too, and it's readings, numerology, your Lexagrams, the whole deal. And Sharita does a combo unlike anybody else. So I would highly recommend that as well. And so grateful that you would take an hour, a little over an hour to hang out and talk about this.
This is the first time
share all your insights
on in like 2 months. So, you caught me. I have had no need. I had done some Facebook Living back in the first part of this. And then because I was in the middle of moving back into my house when this started happening. So I've been here transitioning into that. I had no internet for a little while, and I'm working with my own moving parts. And then I'm very quiet under Mercury retrograde. So all this time just kind of zoomed on by. And I'm like, wow, I haven't, I thought of it today earlier. I'm like, I haven't put any makeup on in like 2 months. Yeah, just so that, I looked a little alive on camera. Now it's like getting dark now. I don't even have good lamps in here. Everybody tells me I live in the dark anyway, but that's, neither here nor there.
Well, I always have great conversations with you, so I thought it'd be fun to share one with everybody on Facebook and YouTube. I want to thank everybody for joining us on YouTube too. We had a good audience show up tonight.
Yes, thank you everyone for tuning in and being patient with our funky Mercury retrograde
and it worked.
Problems, and it's all par for the course. Hopefully everything was audible, and I'll look forward to listening back to it and seeing how it all came across. I would have to critique myself.
Yeah, thank you, Skylar. Appreciate you being here.
Hi, Skylar.
JG.
It is the best
Doris,
time to make for fun. I agree, JG. We have to make fun in our life. It's important. That's a very good point. We can't feel guilty about having fun. We just can't feel guilty. I know a lot of people feel guilty about having fun, and you can't. You can. I tell you, you can't do anything. But it's not healthy for you to believe you can't have fun, I guess is the better way to say it. So try to intertwine fun in your life, but also intertwine that quiet time for yourself. It's important now more than ever. However you like to spend some time with yourself, whether it's yoga, is it gardening, is it taking a walk, is it just listening to music, is it meditating? I know a lot of people tell me they can't meditate, but just breathe. Just focus on your breath and meditate. That's all you need to do. Start there. Start simple. It's the year of becoming friends with simplification. So don't try to empty your brain cells and think, I can't meditate, because you're just going about it the wrong way. It's just about breathing. And I also will add in,
that's great.
if you want to, JG, if you want to check out, go to atombetweentheworlds.com. Look at all of his courses he has already done. He's been banging out this amazing empowerment information, and he's a medium, and he talks to archangels and all this spirit stuff. I talk to planets. He talks to those people, and he's got all these very low cost trainings. You could totally. He's a magical person if you want to hang out with a magical person who's working with this in an amicable way, and he knows the 3D is leaving and the 5D is this way, So we're doing it. It's the 3D dive to the 5D thrive. That's what we're doing.
Well, thanks for helping guide us through it all. And thanks, Diane, for your nice comment. And thanks for everybody
here. I have no idea who's here or who's not, but thank you. And anyone who listens to it after, thank you. I look forward to working with you if that's something that resonates with you. We have a lot to share and a lot to keep you empowered and armed in awareness to navigate these times with peace of mind as much as we can. As much as these times are uncertain, your soul certainty is what matters the most. And
Empower Radio is here to support you as well.
Absolutely.
Check out our shows. Check out our app.
Magical people as well.
24-hour streaming station. All kinds of amazing hosts across the country and Canada, and also our crew in New York. So thank you, Sharita, for being here tonight.
Thank you, Brent. Much safety, love, protection, and empowerment always. And to everyone listening tonight and watching, thank you. Namaste.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.